Hey everybody, Superfan Giovanni here. Welcome to a short introductory video on how to properly record a Skype podcast. In this video, I'm going to show you some of the tools and tricks I use to make the audio sound the way it does on my various podcasts. Geo, the Get It On podcast, Podgods with my co-host LaxDude, MacGyvecast, the classic Loveline intros, and of course, Dude and Geo Watch Stuff. There are a lot of differences between recording a podcast with a mixer through a computer and using XLR and everybody in the same room. That'll be for another video down the road. This is really just going to focus on how to properly use Skype for people that have to record far apart from each other and they don't want their audio to sound like dog shit. So I guess first we'll start with this Skype window here. If you've never set up Skype before, you'll want to set your speakers through how you're going to hear. In my case, I'm using an external sound card, a USB Sound Blaster HD. In your case, it'll probably be your internal sound card, and it'll be like headphones. See, has the speakers for my microphone, the SBDIF out, the fiber optic out, the speakers from my laptop itself, and the speakers from the USB Sound Blaster sound card. That's what I'm going to use. Video, webcam, does not matter. You're not going to be using this. So you're never going to be making video calls when you're trying to make a Skype audio podcast. It's only going to downgrade the quality. And you're also never going to use a Wi-Fi connection. You want to make sure you've disabled any torrents or any programs running in the background using your bandwidth. It's often best to start with a fresh computer boot up, especially on a Mac or a PC. Basically any computer. Now use the test sound feature to test to make sure the audio is coming through the right channel, so that way you don't have the mix-up when you actually make your phone call to record your podcast and seem unprofessional. Your microphone will be the microphone you're going to be using. Ideally, it'll be a USB mic, especially when you're doing Skype. There's no real reason to have a mixer, especially if there's only one person in the room. If there's more than one person, you're going to need to go to a mixer, or you're going to need to use GarageBand for your Mac. For the programs I use, there isn't an easy solution for two USB mics to the same computer. You can, however, get a microphone like an Audio-Technica. I believe it's the AT2020. I'll put a link in the annotations. That has a wide register on it, and if the participants are close enough, you can record two participants through the one microphone, although it does need to be compressed and normalized in post-production. So I always say not to automatically adjust microphone settings. You do not want that. And it's a smart idea to leave your audio right about here. That's usually the best level for all your recording programs. And it's smart to get all your participants to do the same. So we'll go ahead and continue. We can do this later. This is just a new account I'm setting up. No, we'll just do this later. Shit. All right, take a picture of that. There, fine. All right. See, now I'm in Skype, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to an Echo Sound Test Service. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a call. Alright, so now she's instructed me to record a message, and I'm recording my message, and once I'm done, it'll stop, and then the message will be played back to me, and I'll be able to hear my own audio and hear what I sound like. This is another great tool for gauging. See, yeah, I heard it. So that's basically what it is. Now you can grade how good the quality was on that. It's good. It's okay. No feedback needed right now. While you're in a call, you can check this. You can also check it right here. It's essentially showing you your microphone, speaker, webcam, computer, and then your connection, most important. Connection speed is good. Always smart to give it a test. And sometimes it'll display not good, but it's not accurate. Oddly enough, you only need about 10 kilobytes free up and down to get a good audio stream on Skype. And really, if you're going to be recording a single recording track, what you're going to want to do then is once we've set all this up, you go into your recording program, which on the PC, I recommend Total Recorder. It's about $50. I'll put a link in the annotations again. If you're on a Mac, you'll be using Audio Hijack Pro. I don't have a Mac handy, but this setup is somewhat similar. So we'll go into settings. We want to go in the wizard. So let's see where it is. Hold on. Recording wizard. That's what you'll go into. This is the simplest way to set it up. So next, we don't need this. What are you going to be recording? Internet telephony. This is for Skype, Google Talk, all this kind of stuff. That's what we'll be doing for this type of a podcast. I only use this program for Skype recordings. Everything I do locally, I just use Audacity. On a Mac, Audacity is a great tool to use as well, although you can use GarageBand if you must. Playback device, you can put any, and then you can just go into your sound settings. So then this will automatically respond to whatever your computer is set up. So if your default setting is this microphone and this speaker, it'll automatically go to the defaults. If you can't keep track of something like that, it's probably smarter just to go in here and set it from the beginning to be speaker. For me, we use USB Sound Blaster, and then any recording device, I'd go down to Rode Podcaster. That would be the microphone I'll always be using. But I'm a little more experienced, so I'm going to leave them how I like them. And do you want your voice and the voice of your partner in a conversation to be placed in different channels? Absolutely. Never say no. So next. Would you like to perform a test recording? I don't need to, but you certainly can. Record in a specific uncompressed PCM format. This is what you want. Uncompressed PCM 44.1 16-bit stereo. This is it. CD quality 44.1 16-bit stereo. That's what you want. You can choose tags, so it'll custom tag your files. So if you have a podcast you're doing, it could be the name of the show, and then have the date afterwards, or recording 1, recording 2, that kind of a thing. I don't need to do such things, but if you do, please feel free. Pause reduction feature. Again, this is something you probably don't want to fuck with. I always go no. And the auto file creation feature, I always hit yes. This basically, as it's making the file as it's recording. So at the end, if you hit stop, you don't have to save. It just makes it a lot simpler for you. It's automatically making a file. Here's the tracks I use. I just don't care about the name. No, I don't want to use this at all either. And do not split on above conditions. Leave all this alone. And finish. There you go. Your Total Recorder is now completely set up to record a Skype call when you're on a podcast. So if you were to record if you're just going to record Skype and you're going to be recording on your end, and you're recording the audio for your guest as well, you would start up Skype. You'd start up this call. Make sure you got the recording going. See? That is the Skype woman talking. And now here's me talking. See, this is my channel, the top channel, and the guest channel is below. And so I'll talk, and it'll record and create a file. And she'll probably stop me here in a second, and I'll turn this off. All right. So stop the Skype call. I hit stop here. File's already created. I go over to the file save in my computer. Right here is the file, 24.7 seconds. I will drag it to my desktop so I have it. Oh, I have to close the program first. All right, try again. There we go. So once the program's closed, then you can drag it and move it. Open it up. Now here is how it plays. This is an Audacity window. This is my audio. This is hers. Seeing as how I just recorded my end and she's coming through compressed, what I would want to do is, if the audio looks great and it's kind of matching, like the same, looks okay comparatively, to make the best audio, what I probably want to do is go here, hit this, split stereo track. Then, well, I'm just selecting this audio, not that channel. Go in here. My audio wasn't compressed, but hers was, so if I'm going to match it out, I'll compress my audio. Now, these are the default settings, and I find they're very intuitive. You don't really need to adjust these. My audio has now been compressed. I'm going to normalized. I always normalize to -1.2. All these settings are important. Okay. Come through here. I'm going to normalize her audio. Okay. Make stereo track. And this is most important. Select all. Now tracks. Stereo track to mono. This will combine our voices to one audio track. So when you go to listen to the podcast, instead of me coming through the left ear and her coming through the right, we'll both come through both. Now, once again, probably going to normalize this now that they've been paired. And that's how it'll usually come out. And if she's peaking too much and your channel's too quiet, you'll want to go undo, undo, and then go back undo, undo. Sometimes you'll actually find that your channels are almost perfect from the get-go. So keep going all the way back down, now select all, and try it from here. Now try tracks, stereo track to mono. It looks a little better, I guess. You can now compress from here. You can normalize. And if all else fails, there's always leveling. So the leveler tool, again, default settings, moderate 70 dBs, helps a little. But no matter what, you'll want to, at the end, if you go in here to amplify, it says it can go up to 5.8. You never want to go up to maximum. My rule of thumb is always just to go in and do a normalize, a negative 0.12. It'll make it peak at negative 1.2 dBs, so it doesn't hurt your ears, nor is it destructive to audio equipment. Just a better way to listen to a podcast. Now, if you're trying to do something a little more advanced, and you want to kind of be out there with it, what you'll need is you and your co-host or your guests, ideally not more than 5 or 6 people. It becomes really tricky, and really it's best for 2 to 3. You'll want to have them also record a local recording on their machine. So what you would do is you would run Audacity. Ideally, just have them record a mono input for themselves or a stereo, it doesn't matter. In post, you'll have to mix it down anyway. So it depends on how much work you want to do later or in advance. So microphone I'm using the Rode Podcaster. I'm going to record a mono channel this time. So here is me talking. It's just me. It will not pick up my partner as part of the conversation. And then I would also turn on Total Recorder, record that. That'll record my end and my partner's end of the conversation. Then I go into Skype, make my Skype call. As you see, it does not see her, but it sees me talking. However, this one shows both of us. Simple as that. Now, why you would do something like this is while you're recording the Skype call, you have this Total Recorder recording as the backup. So if anything ever happens, you have a backup file, both of your audio, and you would do this on both ends of the recording. So essentially there would be 4 recordings going simultaneously, 2 on each machine. One a dual recording like this, which has both people's audio. We can throw this out, we don't need it. And then a single recording like this. Now, what would happen is after that's done, you would have a file, much like this. This would showcase a recent episode of my podcast, Podgods, I believe. Oops, wrong file. Let's delete that. Let's see here. All right, this will be the file we want. This is the most recent episode, 104 of the time I'm recording this. Now, here's my audio channel, and here's my co-host Lax Dude. This is my dual recording, so as you see, his audio is compressed as processed through Skype, and mine is wild and kind of scraggly. Now, these are not going to match up well, so first thing, if we're going to use this recording, the first thing we do is split the stereo track, go and highlight my audio, and we're going to compress it because it has not been compressed yet. And that's going to be the most important step. I just sit here kind of boring while this stuff does this. Depending on the speed of your computer, this will go faster or a lot slower. I'm sorry for you if that's the case. The dynamic range compression tool in Audacity is very versatile. A lot more than people get it credit for, and a lot of people skip past Audacity thinking it's a kind of an amateur production and not with all the tools of something like a Pro Tools or, as my buddy Dune only uses, Cool Edit Pro. And now his audio, we're going to normalize it because it's not at its highest possible peak as well. This is a much faster process. See? It's now about equal to my audio, and I'm probably going to go in here and normalize mine now too, just to shave it down to -1, 2. Then I make it a stereo track again. Then tracks, stereo track to mono. Now sometimes the waveform will look a lot smaller in certain places, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's that much quieter. It's just not peaking on the same levels. So this audio is a little bit less than ideal. But you can go through and you can use tools like the leveler. Tends to bring everything a little bit more up to speed. But before you level it, you probably want to take away the normalize and then come to a normalize after. Just normalize is a good final step to use, just because the final audio will always be -0.12, and it'll be clean up if it's rough in any areas. You can always undo every step of the way. Undo split. Now, how we cue these tracks up so we can actually record is on his end. He has a series of beeps, and then I time it with a clap to cue, much like when you're taking a take in film. So essentially his computer will go beep, 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 and then I will come through with a right after the last beep. Now you can either try to remember how long the time took between the beep and the clap if you're that smart, or the best option would be if you record on his end and I record on my end, you take this dual recording and you take his new recording, whatever that would be. Let's say he has another channel he sends you, or she, whoever the partner is. So let's say if I split these, this is just going to be for an example. It's not something you're actually going to do. So let's say all right. Okay, this is his audio from the recording on my end that has both of our audio. This is his Skype audio. Now, I don't have a good example here, so I'm just going to say, okay, let's duplicate that channel. So, okay, let's say this is the third channel he's now sent me. This is his audio from his end and his recording. What I would be doing then is I'd be zooming in, and I would try to match these up. And I would, with my audio, it's recorded on site, so no reason to do that. It's perfectly already in sync. We just have to match them together. So we would take this track, and we would come in here and we'd trim it down, or untrim it down to make these line up perfectly. Once these line up perfectly, then we could delete this track, and now it's my home track and my co-host home track together perfectly in sync. And it sounds like we're in the same room. And now how this process we do goes like this. That's how we queue up and sync a track. It's quite a simple, elegant procedure, and the results are quite great. Now, if you're unfamiliar to internet telephony and there's lots of crosstalk, you may need to go in the timeline and do some actual editing. If you're going to edit, make sure that it's edited as a stereo track. You don't want to edit the channels independently because then you'll throw the sync off. So you can either edit when it's like this, or you can, of course, select all, tracks, stereo track to mono. Some people find it's much easier to edit in mono as opposed to stereo. So let's say we're going to cut out this stuff here because we don't want people to hear that. That's our syncing up at the beginning. And then I'm going to go through and normalize the audio, of course. We'll do all the audio steps you normally do. I'm just going to do this kind of fast to show you an example because there's a bunch of different ways you can kind of process the audio. Essentially, the three tools you'll be using the most are compressor, normalize, and leveler. I find those are the best. Now, you see here there's gaps in between the talking and stuff going on. If you don't want silent spots, a really elegant tool in here as well is truncate silence with these settings. 100, 200, 4, -40 dBs. Now, this will take a recording that's an hour and 16 seconds. An hour and 16.508 seconds if you're going to be very specific. And with a lot of this editing, you will have to get down to the milliseconds, so it's good to use the selection start, end, length, audio position. So you can have this at the length of the selection, the end point, whatever you want. Always work in 44.1 projects. It's just smart. When you install Audacity and set it up, you'll want to install the lame and ffmpeg plugins. See, by cutting out the truncated silence, I just shaved about 6 minutes off this podcast. Depending on your show, you'll have mixed results. You may want to extend the time between silent breaks or not. I find the standard settings are perfect. They not only preserve the pause for comedic timing, but they allow a conversation to flow naturally, and it just tightens up the recording altogether. So it's a very smart move to use that. And then I find I don't like mono tracks at all, so I like to duplicate this now that we've merged them, so we're both in the same audio here. Now make this a stereo track. Then go up to File, Export, and then I want to export this as an MP3. I want to change the name to Podgods 104, or what I like to use my naming convention, wherever you choose. I do PG 104 right now. It's kind of what I'm partial to. It's MP3, but you can go through and do whatever you want. If you're going to be podcasting, you're going to want an MP3. Options, whatever you want to set them at. A good podcast audio quality for size and content. 96 kilobytes joint stereo. Constant bit rate. Those are my favorite settings. Then you just hit OK. Export to wherever you want to save. The desktop's usually the easiest. And go ahead and do that. Once that's done, you would then have a file, an MP3, you can post on the internet. It's smart to use something like MP3 tag editor. So you can go through here and I have all these different files that are in my downloaded folder. And if you have whatever you have, and you can get tags, see? So here's Podgods 104, topic of the week, year, track, genre, artist, all this kind of stuff. You can edit. A really simple tool if you do a lot of the same shows is you can just tag copy. And if I had Podgods 105 here, I could just go in and go tag paste. And then I would just change numbers to 104 and 104, like that kind of, essentially. It's very simple. It's a very elegant thing to use, and it makes your files look far more professional. And another tool you can do here is you can always export this to a WAV. Let's say you don't like messing around with the audio. You don't know how it works. It's too confusing. It's too much work. You just don't want to deal with it. Let's save this to a WAV, and I'll put it on my desktop. I'll save it as BG 104. I'm not going to put anything in there. I'll use MP3 tag later when I have the actual file I want to fuck with. Okay, so I'm going to close this out. No, I'm not saving any changes. I'm not dealing with this anyway. Close this out. This program is called the Levelator. I'm going to close it and open a new window. It's built by the Conversations Network. There is a video online I'll link to as well right about now. And you can see how it kind of works. It's a very simple program, and the video is a little blowhardy. So essentially all you have to do is take this PG 104 WAV file I just made, and I just do that. And then it'll just go through the process. And what it's going to do is it's going to normalize, it's going to level, it's going to compress. When the file comes out, it'll be -1 dB, not 1.2. I prefer 1.2, but -1 is good enough. And this is really the poor man's, simple man's solution. It streamlines all editing. You can also, if you have raw files from both recording sources, usually they're going to be recording to an uncompressed WAV file. So instead of even having open Audacity, you can just first pop your raw recording over into the Levelator, take your other partner's raw recording, pop that in the Levelator, and then they're both levelated. Then you can open them both up and then merge the files after the audio's already been fixed. So it streamlines even more of the process for you. There's a limitless way to do all this stuff, but the three best tools for the recording stuff are Audacity, Total Recorder, Audio Hijack Pro, and of course the Levelator. And of course you'll need Skype. Depending on the length of your file, this can be a little bit of a lengthy procedure. It never usually takes more than 10 minutes, usually a lot less. This show is about an hour, so it's taking the appropriate amount of time. Once the file comes out, you'll be able to see the clear difference in the audio and how it did most of the work for you. Now, the Levelator isn't a perfect tool. It's great for podcasts recorded with bad microphones and auditorium spaces and places where you really shouldn't be recording podcasts. It's also good for straight vocal mic recordings where the audio is just not balanced out right. Some cases, the Levelator will not help your audio. It'll make it sound a little bit worse or hollow or like you're in an even worse environment. So use this at your own discretion, and whatever works for you and your audio is kind of what you want to stick with. My brother. Another great tool to use is MP3 Direct Cut. Well, that's right in the background. I'll show it to you. This is if you already have your podcast in an MP3 and you don't want to put it in Audacity, wait for it to open, and then have to recompress it again. Let's say you forgot to put it on an intro, you said something you weren't supposed to say, and you already processed the file, and it's just too late. You can then just pop the MP3 into here, and you can edit MP3 in real time. And then you can save complete audio over the original file, but I don't recommend it. I recommend saving another folder. And you just export it out. And it's quite simple and elegant. It resyncs the MP3's frames. There aren't any other programs like it. This is a free program. Audacity is a free program. The Levelator is a free program. Total Recorder costs $50. I've only bought the license once, or twice now actually, but for complicated reasons. Usually need to buy it once. And Audio Hijack Pro, I believe, is between $30 and $60 as well. All right, the audio is complete. Now, if we look for where it went, let's see here. I'll close this out. Let me refresh. There we go. PG 104 output. It'll always have a dot output when that's how you know the file it's done by Levelator. Now, when we open it up and compare it, this is our new file. Wow. Definitely filling the frame. And the original file. Show you an example. Come on. Right there. So it's definitely an improvement this time. It's not as elegant and smooth as doing it by hand, but it's much quicker, and there's less of a learning curve. So I recommend all these tools for creating a Skype-to-Skype podcast. I'm going to be putting out some more videos that go more in depth on certain programs or aspects of programs. I just wanted kind of a primer video that showed some of the stuff I'm working with, and I didn't want to be too overwhelming at first. So I hope this helped, and more to come. Get it on.